Hello, dear friends. My name is Vasyl Pekhnio. I'm a Ukrainian journalist, and I invite all of you to watch this latest update on Ukrainian battle map situation as of November the 4th. So, we'll be talking about Pokrovsk region because it remains the main action zone. So, what is going on there, but also about some announcement which made Ukrainian president about liberation of one of the big cities where as well are taking really active actions. I mean the city of Kupyansk. I will also tell to all of you. So stay with us. Let's begin.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Greetings, friends. My name is Vasyl Pekhnio, and you are on the Fabrica Novin YouTube channel. I invite you to review the battle map as of the morning of November 4th. This Tuesday, we'll sum up the past day, so make sure to like, leave comments, and subscribe to us. Let's get started. The city of Pokrovsk, the city that is the main focus and where everything is happening. Yesterday, it was the focus of the president's press conference, where he shared some rather encouraging, honestly, I'd even say, perhaps overly optimistic information about Pokrovsk, and not just Pokrovsk. Well, okay, let's repeat what the Supreme Commander-in-Chief said. He says that up to 30% of all combat operations are taking place here, and that this area accounts for half of all Russian glide bomb usage. By the way, glide bombs are a major and distinct problem for Pokrovsk, and I have repeatedly emphasized this point, that even just a month ago, Pokrovsk was being hit by a phenomenal number of glide bombs across the entire Pokrovsk-Myrnohrad agglomeration. There were days when 200 glide bombs would hit in just 2 or 3 days. That's just an unprecedented level of intensity. I think the highest was 160 glide bombs since the Russians began their active offensive here. 160 glide bombs fell on Pokrovsk, on Myrnohrad, on Ryshin, and also on Lysivka. These 4 locations, up to 60 glide bombs could fall in a single day. So now the president says that up to half of all glide bombs on the front are hitting Pokrovsk. At the same time, Zelenskyy admits that the situation for Ukrainian troops is very difficult. To be honest, that's putting it very mildly. Very difficult. I don't share at all those theories where people express some wild optimism about Pokrovsk, because to be objective, we have to understand that everything is leading to the fact that we will have to leave the city. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many soldiers I talk to, hopes that the situation in Pokrovsk will somehow rapidly improve are frankly false hopes. That's how I see it, though of course I could be wrong. But on this section of the front, the enemy is acting without pause. Without pause, they push and push in the city, trying to cut off all supply routes. They are approaching it and blocking the routes that can still be used to enter, which are already dangerous, and in some places it's impossible to enter or exit at all. So here, every movement is extremely risky. Moving can only be done on foot. Logistics are impossible. The Russians are now advancing to the north of Pokrovsk, to the area of high-rise buildings, in order to set up their positions for operators there and essentially work from those locations, having, let's say, successful and accessible radio horizons. The 7th Air Assault Corps reports that right now in the north of Pokrovsk, in this very location, a clearing operation against Russian occupiers is underway, and we are having success there. This was reported yesterday by the Air Assault Forces, specifically by the 7th Air Assault Corps. In particular, they also added that over the past few days, the defense forces have managed to create opportunities to reinforce the troops in Pokrovsk with additional manpower and equipment, which likely means sending brigades there, possibly to improve the situation. There is one brigade, in particular a unit from the Marines, which is currently working to move into the city of Pokrovsk and to unblock those areas that are currently in less than ideal conditions. This was reported by the 7th Corps. As of November 2nd, that is the day before yesterday, 19 Russians were killed directly in the city. Last week, there were over 80, and now another 19, so about 100 have been eliminated by our fighters in Pokrovsk in roughly a week. We understand that their presence in the city is still quite significant. At the same time, the enemy is also trying to move into Myrnohrad from the south. The entire core of the Air Assault Forces is also responsible for the defense of Myrnohrad. They report that the enemy is indeed being detected on the approaches to the southern outskirts of the city. About 10 people, 10 infantrymen have managed to gather there. By the way, this video is being shown not only by Russian public channels, but even by the Russian Ministry of Defense itself. The ministry is showing footage from a drone that in turn demonstrates the landing of Russian paratroopers. Well, in this video, we can more or less count approximately a dozen occupiers. Right now, focused efforts are currently underway to eliminate them All the work is focused on their elimination as a result of this enemy landing. This landing took place in the city of Myrnohrad. Moreover, our aviation is also operating on the eastern outskirts of Myrnohrad. Honestly, what's happening here right now is such chaos that I don't envy, frankly, I really don't envy the commanders who are now trying to form these emergency response teams. What the defense forces are doing here now, basically every day, organizing operations, being responsible for people, well, these are just extremely complex actions. Syrskyi is also working here. We see Madyar, we see Lasichuk, the commander of the 7th Corps. Everyone is here. They are organizing these deblocking operations 24/7, although there are questions as to why things were allowed to get to this point in the first place. In short, our aviation is operating over Myrnohrad, working in the eastern areas, specifically at the point I'm indicating. The Sonya community, the community of Air Force fighters, claims that it wasn't an ATO here, but actual F-16 striking targets in the area of Moskovsky and Promin. Shells like these landed on the mine. This is what's left, so to speak, of the mine in the Moskovsky industrial area, following the shelling. These are the very places where the occupiers were gathering, where they were being drawn in to attack Myrnohrad. These are the events taking place. And on the 16th, our aviation struck there. In other words, the overall trend of the fighting in Pokrovsk does not yet allow us to say that things are rapidly or positively resolving. The situation is very difficult, but behind the scenes, many believe there are, let's say, some surprise solutions. God willing, they exist. God willing, I'm wrong. By the way, there's another interesting piece of information about Myrnohrad, which is that, for the sake of objectivity, let's go back to the previous point. For the sake of objectivity, cities are not liberated, and troops do not withdraw from cities based on social media posts or videos, which, by the way, I also do as part of my blogging. This makes the work of commanders and units on the ground extremely difficult. So, without having the full picture, it's honestly impossible to draw any 100% certain conclusions. Now, regarding Myrnohrad, there's one more clarification I wanted to make. Yesterday, information appeared from NV, a publication that, citing its sources in the armed forces of Ukraine, reported that Russia is now recruiting 18-year-olds from juvenile detention centers to storm Myrnohrad. 18-year-olds, friends. So now there really are already the occupiers understand that they have certain problems with their personnel. And right now, to be frank, the main task of the Ukrainian forces is to grind down as many enemy troops as possible in Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad at their approaches, and to take advantage of the fact that the occupiers, in their rush to fulfill reports for Putin, want to capture these cities as quickly as possible. So we must keep grinding them down, and grinding them down more and more again and again. Even now, we are seeing a certain percentage increase in the occupiers' losses. Over the day before last, it was about 1,200 Russian soldiers. I think now it will be about the same. So they are already recruiting 18-year-olds for service here in order not to take new recruits from elsewhere, from the relatively peaceful civilian life in the Russian Federation. They are recruiting 18-year-olds from juvenile detention centers, meaning those who already have a criminal record. In addition, videos are appearing on Russian public channels, videos of a commander communicating, who is talking to the assault companies made up of Russian convicts and giving them this kind of briefing before sending them to the front. Listen to the attitude of the Russian commander, what he says.
If you refuse to carry out your tasks, I swear to you on my mother, I swear to you on my children, I will personally shoot each one of you. I'll report you as missing, and then I'll shoot each one of you. I have the authority to do so. All of you, your whole group, you bastards, except for that man. You are all bastards. I believe in you. Prove that you are real men. Now I'm asking each of you.
So yeah, you're all bastards. I'll personally shoot you. I swear on my mother. And what? That's how they're driven to the slaughter. That's how they die, but it doesn't make things any easier for us. It's only a little bit better. Maybe you could cautiously say the situation is slightly improved in the Dobropillia direction, in the sense that right now the occupiers are focusing a lot of attention on Pokrovsk and Myrnohrad. At this time in Dobropillia, the commander-in-chief claims that our units are advancing further in the area of this Dobropillia salient by several kilometers. In total, nearly 200 square kilometers of territory have been liberated in the Dobropillia sector of the front during the course of the operation. Separately, I want to talk about what the president said yesterday, because frankly, there was a bit too much victory talk yesterday. As I understand it, the president was talking about Kupyansk, saying that during his press conference with journalists yesterday, he mentioned that there are set dates for the complete clearing of Kupyansk from the occupiers. Honestly, I don't understand why such announcements are being made. We're not like the Russians who set sacred symbolic dates. We can't act with the same rhetoric as Putin does when he claims that Pokrovsk has been captured, even though it hasn't. When he says that journalists can be brought there while fighting is still ongoing. When he says that he will come himself, well, by all means, let him come, but that's not true. Honestly, I just don't understand from a communication standpoint who writes such text for presidents or gives them such talking points, giving announcements or advice like that, announcing a complete sweep in Kupyansk. Zelenskyy says there are still 60 occupiers in Kupyansk. Yes, right now there really are certain, let's say, positive circumstances. Positive in the sense that the Western analyst Playfra, who rarely makes mistakes about the situation on the battlefield, claims that Kindrashivka and Radkivka are now under their control. Even if the Russians are not exactly present there, Ukrainian forces are definitely somewhere near Holubivka. Playfra is specifically focusing on the expulsion of the occupiers from Radkivka and Kindrashivka and the advance towards Holubivka. Then what does this mean? It means that this very movement, which has been talked about a lot, the physical cutting off, the isolation of the enemy present in Kupyansk, is now being attempted by the defense forces. So it is quite possible to assume, and there have already been many announcements about this, that we really do have successes here. And the president, in my opinion, could, well, I'm not his advisor, but after all, he could have said that, yes, indeed, the occupiers are now blocked here. But to announce a complete clearing operation and to set specific dates, well, honestly, that sounds a bit strange. What if it doesn't happen? What if it doesn't work out? That's the responsibility of the commander-in-chief. So I don't understand this communication, why it's being presented this way. Well, okay, but in fact, the Russians really are here, and they are clearly blocked, most likely. And a positive scenario could happen in Kupyansk. The enemy could be cleared out. But let's do it without announcements. Sorry, that's just my opinion. Although there is a lot of enemy infiltration right now, and regarding Lyman, there are already more and more assessments that the enemy is infiltrating here, and soon we might have, well, if not a similar scenario, I really hope there won't be a scenario like Pokrovsk, because that's definitely a lesson we need to learn, where the Russians bypass our positions, not even engaging in battles. The first signs of this were seen in Lyman, when instead of attacking the defensive points of Zarikne, Torske, and Yampol, the Russians simply bypassed and came right through our positions to the very outskirts of Lyman. I think that conclusions have already been drawn from this enemy tactic and the capture of its cities, as we can see in Pokrovsk and as we saw in Kupyansk. Now, by the way, the enemy is already being observed in the southern districts of Vovchansk, having crossed the Vovcha River here, already in the southern areas, but so far without establishing a foothold. Again, they are being destroyed.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
Although the enemy is already being observed here. So, in fact, the situation is that the Russians are trying, because right now there is a struggle over where different troops will spend the winter, who will remain in the fields, and who will take up which positions. And for the Russians, it is now a top priority to enter the settlements because they failed to achieve their summer objectives of comfortably taking these settlements. They are now trying to accomplish this in a rather rushed manner, realizing that the cold season is approaching. The year is coming to an end, and the complete absence of greenery is approaching as well. Well, it's already the case, and staying out in the open field is extremely dangerous. That's exactly why they need Kupyansk, Pokrovsk, Lyman, and other settlements. But in many respects, they are not managing to achieve this, except perhaps for their presence in Pokrovsk. To wrap up, I'll probably mention something positive. The positive, in my opinion, is definitely the announcement made again yesterday by the president and later confirmed by the Ministry of Defense about the existence of a program. This program is now available for all Ukrainian reservists and civilians who have not yet served. And for the military as well, at least there is now the possibility of new contracts, fixed-term contracts being prepared. Because up until now, there have been no fixed terms in the contracts held by the armed forces personnel. Now, a proposal is being prepared, legislative changes are already underway, amendments to the legislation are being introduced. All of this has already started, according to Defense Minister Shmyhal. The main innovation is that these will be guaranteed and clearly defined terms of service. Contracts will range from 1 to 5 years and even longer. Those who sign a one-year contract will not receive a year of deferment from conscription. Those who sign a contract for 2 years or more will, after fulfilling their contract, be granted a year of deferment from conscription. Why is this being done? I've already been asked in the comments, what's the logic behind a one-year contract then? After that, you don't get a deferment, you can be mobilized again. So basically, what's the logic behind this? Point number one, it's offered to people who, for various reasons, don't join the armed forces in civilian life. They're offered to sign a contract and know for sure that after serving 2 years, you get a one-year deferment. That's option number one. Or you serve 3 years and get a one-year deferment. If you choose the option with 1 year of service, you won't get that one-year deferment. What's the logic behind such a contract? The logic is that it can be signed by those who believe the war will end within a year. Then everything is fine, martial law is lifted, they've served their year, and they can leave the military as a respected person, not just some random guy. Next question, what about those who are already in the army? They might say it's unfair to them. I agree, it is unfair. But for many, this will also be a way to solve their problem, to get a one-year contract now or 2, 3, 5. So now anyone in the defense forces can sign such a contract and know for sure that after serving that term, they will be demobilized. Depending on the duration of the contracts, you can see that additional monthly payments are provided, as well as payments for participation in operations directly in the combat zone. There is also a choice of military units and positions, but it is noted by two marks that within the defined list of shortage positions, you can only choose your position and unit from those specifically designated by the Ministry of Defense as available for service. At least this is definitely a prospect and certainly a good thing, because fixed-term service is being introduced, meaning everyone will understand and know when they can be demobilized. The alternative to not signing such a contract will remain general mobilization. That is, this is mobilization without a fixed term, without assignment to a specific unit, without recruitment, and without the possibility of recruitment. And thirdly, this mobilization is in fact compulsory. In other words, you are forcibly conscripted into the military to some extent, and you do not have the right to choose which unit you will serve in or to decide the length or duration of your contract. The alternative is this kind of professionalization of the army. It's probably a good thing. It can definitely be refined. It can definitely be discussed. There are drawbacks, but there are definitely advantages. I think this is what many members of the defense forces have been waiting for. But obviously, this story still definitely needs a thorough, final, and discursive discussion before it is implemented. I think that will still happen, and the proposals will be further refined and improved. Well, I'll end things here for today. Thank you for your attention, friends. Take care of yourselves. All the best, and see you next time.